I've been following your stuff for a while, and I just have to say, like, one of the conversations I've had with several people about like Twitch streams and me studying and like learning from other people is the question I ask myself: what makes me want to go into someone's stream as opposed to the other person, right? When there's like 8 people that are currently streaming, and you and your friend Anel, who you call something else, like I think it's so you guys have something about like the ability to be so talented musically, and I'm not gonna like shower you too many compliments, so don't worry too much about it. But the ability to like to be so talented musically and then to engage in such a dope and genuine and funny way where you're like displaying your full what appears to be your full personality. Like I get like that this is who you are just in general. I think that is just so incredible, and like I'm learning like from afar now. Like you probably know it's a little bit closer, but like I'll go in there and show love and say what's up and stuff, but I'm like literally like watching and kind of in awe, and like this is really just incredible like what you guys are doing. So I
Thank
just
you.
wanted to start off with that. Yeah, you're very welcome. You're very welcome. How long have you been streaming now for?
About 5 years. I've been doing
5 years.
music on Twitch. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Wow. So if you had to think of, and I don't know if it's an easy or hard question, but like, what do you have like a thing that you would say is like your favorite thing about Twitch?
Yeah, I think Twitch is really unique in that as an artist, it is a place where you can interact with your community, your fan base, whatever you want to call them,
Yeah.
your people, for lack of a better term. And I think that's something that has historically kind of been hard to do as an artist who is maybe signed to a label or somebody who is absorbed into a bigger thing like a label.
Yeah.
People find them to be inaccessible, and therefore they're put on this pedestal. And when you have opportunities to want to interact with these people, it's few and far in between. And maybe it's because of a structural thing where maybe the industry is not allowing for that sort of presence, or they're not really. It's not really like what the industry is trying to do with their money and resources. But I think Twitch
Yeah.
is really cool because it's a very independent, very like at your own house, whatever you produce is gonna be like what you see is what you get sort of thing. So like for me to be able to interact with people on like such an even and common level as just logging on to a site and just like talking, like it's really, I think it's a really unique experience. And I think now that music has just exploded since the pandemic. I think not only indie artists like myself are finding themselves on the platform to, talk about their music and interact with their fans, but I think label people who, for a long time haven't been able to connect with the audience like you can on Twitch are hopping on Twitch to do that very thing.
When is the tour? When is that coming? When is that happening?
So the tour is going to be in March.
Okay.
It starts March 10th. That's our first date. That's in LA at Catch One. And then we're performing the 12th in Oakland, California at Starline Social Club. And then the 16th in Seattle at High Dive. And then the 18th at Al's Den in Portland.
You got the date and location memorized. That's what I'm talking about.
Just, when you say it every day on stream, I'm like, ah.
Yeah. Right. You know what I'm curious about? I'm curious about if you go back to whenever your first tour was. Like when was that, and what was that experience like going on tour for the first time? I'm curious.
Yeah, so do you know what NACA is?
NACA, I can't say that I do.
So NACA, I forgot what it stands for. It's basically like an association that allows you to be vetted by colleges that are associated with NACA,
Okay.
and you showcase in front of hundreds of colleges in regions. So you do like a showcase in the Northeast. You do one, Midwest, and
Okay.
essentially it is a college association that vets entertainers, whether it's like musical performances, jugglers, people who breathe fire,
Wow. Okay.
just like a whole lot of entertainers. And my first tour was going around the country and performing at these colleges that were NACA colleges. And so
Wow, what
I
year
did a
was this?
whole tour, like Midwest tour, and then that was connected to like my Northeast tour, and I'd be gone for about 2-3 months at a time, and that's how I kind of was able to quit my first or one of my full-time jobs at the time. I was just able to kind of just leap off that and start immediately doing music as my income. And right when I was doing that, that's when I was starting up with Twitch. And because I couldn't be home, I actually took Twitch on the road, and I was one of the first people who would perform on Twitch and not only do like a live show, but music wasn't really a thing, and live shows weren't a thing, and IRL streaming wasn't a thing yet. So unbeknownst to me back then, it was something completely new and completely different. So I'm just trying to take that model that I built 5 years ago and apply it to something bigger like this, where I have a Twitch wall behind me and the chat's interacting. You could be in the crowd and be on your phone if you're not wanting to talk to your neighbor. You could still be in the comfort zone of a chat room that you're used to. But also like bringing out people who actually go to concerts, because a lot of people on Twitch might not have even been to a concert ever, and it's really cool to provide that experience with people either at home or live or both. But yeah, my experience with touring was very different back then, because I felt like I didn't really have an audience that predominantly enjoyed my originals, and so I would kind of have to trick people into like, hey, here's this Ed Sheeran cover, but by the way, this is an original. Oh, you like that? I wrote that. Whereas Twitch is very like, it celebrates you as an artist. So I'd say the only major difference is that people are excited to come out and like yell my lyrics and be a part of like my whole shtick, versus I felt like when I was touring before, it was almost like, you know, here's some candy, kids, and you like the song? Here's an original. It seemed like a trap or something that I had to set.
Right. Man, so I've seen at least a handful of what you just described. The where you I think I've seen some with you and Anel, maybe you by yourself as well, but certainly you guys together being somewhere else and having that wall behind you. And I thought that was so cool, because I have not seen it somewhere else. So you're saying that like you years ago, you were doing stuff like that years ago, and now you're trying to like really let that be like a major part of what you're doing, where you're like blending these two worlds of like live, in person, and virtual. That's cool.
And I've always wanted to do something like that. It's just I didn't have the infrastructure. Like I couldn't tour with a projector. Nobody really knew what Twitch was then. Like, it was very kind of underground. Like, it was more of like a gaming platform, and it would have been really confusing. Me showing up to these schools, like, who's this girl? Who does she think she is? Like, first of all, you have to impress everybody in the audience. So it's not like people are coming for you. So I didn't really have. I didn't even have the concept of like having a chat wall behind me until I'd say more the recent years, like 2 to 3 years. That's kind of something I've developed and slowly started to implement in my live shows. And I think it's somewhere between, like, it's just difficult sometimes because some venues don't have projectors. Like, you don't know what you're going to get until you get there. And so putting these things on your rider, or letting people from the venue know, like, this is what's going to happen. And still, even if they're aware of it beforehand, like, it's never guaranteed. Like, it's always a wild rodeo once you get there, and it's like, what equipment do we have? You know, it's trying to figure it out on your feet.
Right, man. All right, so I want to know a little bit about you, sort of like growing up, like little Raquel, when you were like a child. Like, what kind of person were you? Were you similar to what we see today, which is extremely funny and extremely talented, and like the incredible, here's another compliment coming, so don't, but the incredible ability to like combine the two? Like, you're not just one of those two things. Like, you go in your stream, you're gonna get those accents that you do, right, which are funny, and then you're gonna get the guitar, like the singing and the guitar. You can get the trumpet. You're gonna get the mouth trumpet that I thought is so amazing. I mean, it is an instrument, and if you can like play by ear, if you know about melodies and what sounds good by ear, like, why not do that? Why not use other parts of you to be able to make the whole package better? So that's a mouthful. But what would you say like you were like growing up?
I was always a really quirky child. I was always really different. Like, I remember not being super popular growing up. I was always a creative. I was always in my own head. I'm the kind of person who becomes best friends with one person, and I've never really had like a girl crew or like a posse or anything. I'm kind of more of like I have the one homie, we're really close, and I really like to spend individual time with people and really build these strong relationships. And I guess as a result, I was always kind of introverted. But funny enough, my parents were in entertainment, and both of them were singers. So before they had little me, they were in a band together, and then they got and then they got knocked up, and then quit their music career because they were parents.
Right.
So since I was a kid, music has always been kind of infused in my childhood, and I think they always had this dream of me becoming like your next Mickey Mouse Club singer, like Britney Spears style. Like they always were trying to get me on the stage, and so I've always been performing, and I've always loved singing, and I've always loved music since I was little. But I was crazy shy. I was very shy, and I was, like I said, I grew up kind of introverted. And I really didn't break out of my shell until I was like 13, 14, when I started listening to heavier music. So I grew up listening to the Beatles. I basically, my parents listened to a lot of jazz and R&B, which is where I kind of get my sensibilities from. It's kind of just like in my brain, even though I chose to listen to rock and roll. And then that turned into like a punk rock phase, and then that turned into a metal phase. And anyway, I broke out of my shell when I became a lead singer. When I say singer, I mean I screamed in a metal band. And that was like my angsty phase where I really started developing this like, FU personality, this very like in your face, like, because that's who I have always been in my head, is this like kind of, in your face, like boisterous, kind of a little obnoxious, outspoken. At the end of the day, I've always had really strong opinions, and I think that started coming out when I was a teen, when I learned how to be in a band, when I learned how to be with other people, bandmates, having a team. I was never in sports or anything, so my extracurriculars were always like band stuff and like managing bands. So yeah, I guess I've always kind of been this like crazy big personality. It was a matter of time before it like, came out of me, and I was comfortable enough to present this like truer version of myself. Because even when I started streaming, I was uncomfortable with talking about certain aspects of my personality, or like my habits, or the things that I felt like would affect people's opinion and like the image that I was going to put out there. So
right.
And obviously, like, I'm not, some days I struggle with it because like I at the end of the day, I'm still kind of a private person, but I feel like the more of myself that I can let go and show people like, hey, I'm a real person, this is what I'm actually like, then that's really what helps us come together as a community. Because like with Twitch, people could see genuineness and they could sniff out when you're being fake. So I find that the more genuine I am to myself, it actually helps my community a lot.
Tremendously. Wow, that's so powerful. I'm inclined to like share that I am a former teacher and a current math tutor. A big part of what I do is tutor math. I have a business that I do that, as well as piano lessons and like mentorship. And so one of the things that I think is fascinating is like, so you're probably like the maybe 9th or 10th like music streamer that I've spoken to in the past several months. And so a lot, and I ask that question kind of often too, about like what you were like growing up. And quite often that mindset of, quirky, that word like comes up so often. And what I'm kind of reminded of is just how powerful it is to like not deliberately try to like put down a kid for being that way. Because for all the kids that say that they were that way back then, and now fast forward and seeing people like yourself being able to like take full ownership of who you are, and certainly realizing that like your personality is one that's infectious and that people love interacting with and are entertained by and stuff. I just think it's like quite a powerful thing to know that that's so common for younger people or I shouldn't say so common, because maybe a lot of people haven't gotten out of that, but like being able to just be your true self, I think is just so beautiful. And it's dope that we have a platform to be able to do that on,
Yeah, I think a lot of people always want to be super palatable. And hey, it works, like some people. Yeah. And I've met a lot of music streamers. I collab with a lot of people, and not calling anyone out, but a lot of people or some people that I've met aren't. It's hard for them to be their true self. Like they won't curse on their stream because they feel like it'll affect maybe their audience growth or whatever. Like they're not going to be palatable to those who are trying to look for PG streams. Or they won't talk about certain habits that they have. Like maybe they're huge weed smokers, or like they, you know, they love to drink on the weekends, but they would never talk about that. And in fact, they'd say the opposite. Like, I don't do that. So for me, like, I'd rather be genuine about it in a way where I won't even talk about it, or like, I'll just, you know, we'll steer the conversation away and I'll let people know, like, hey, we're not going to talk about this. And I try and do it in like a funny way, or like something that doesn't alienate people or make people feel like, oh, she doesn't want us to know. That's weird.
Yeah, some secret.
Yeah, but I think it's just much more difficult to carry yourself in this like non-genuine way. Like it taxes you at the end of the day.
Oh yes. 100%. Yeah, that is, you're spot on. Like when it comes to, it was a realization I had when I used to work at Verizon. I have an engineering background. So before this whole version of myself, I used to be in corporate for like 12 years. And I remember thinking about how important it is like to realize that like in the corporate environment, for people whose personality on the weekends is something that just would not jive at all in a corporate environment, they're forced to put on like this mask or this hat or whatever for so many hours per day. And like you said, it's got to be like so taxing to do that, right? You want, like, ideally, we're all made uniquely. We're all made like to be who we are. Like we want to be able to be ourselves. And I think the moment that you realize, I think, so the thing is like, I've been talking about this a lot lately, just about people's talents and people's skills and like what makes them who they are. It oftentimes doesn't feel that noteworthy because it may come natural to us, or it's just us. Like we've been living this way for so long, but like it's really not, it really is noteworthy because of the fact that it's special to like everyone else except for you, you know? I think that's like such a powerful perspective, I think, to have. Like for me, I'm starting to realize that, like for me, playing the piano, for example, and, you know, playing by ear and stuff, like that's something that has come natural to me. And when I'm doing a live stream on, like, even before I got on Twitch, like on Reddit, and people have made comments about how fun it is to watch me figure out something by ear. Like I didn't realize that that's something that's entertaining, but when people share that type of feedback, it's like, so it's cool to know like what sticks, what works, and kind of continue tweaking your process, you know, accordingly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's peering into the creative process is what I've learned that people are, you know, super into. It's like, what about Raquel's brain can we learn from? And maybe this is something I can replicate for myself. And I would tell you that like the most rewarding thing as a creator, and I'm sure you know this, is when people are like, man, like watching you learn that thing, or like watching you struggle with this thing made me realize like I'm the same way. And it made me pick up my instrument for the first time in forever. And to me, like that is, like, it makes me feel so grateful for what I do, because on the days that I feel like I'm not making a difference, or I'm not being impactful, or I'm not progressing in my career, the one person that says that in my chat, like it makes the entire performance all worth it.
Oh yeah, so powerful. That, like, yeah, that impact that it can make in people's lives. I could not agree with you more. So what would you say for someone out there that is, I don't know, getting started on Twitch, for someone that's been on the platform for 5 years and has seen probably, you know, changes in the platform, you know, additions, new features, all that good stuff. Like, what is something, I guess, a piece of advice that, I don't know, may seem obvious or may not seem obvious, but just something that's on your mind that, like, you think a new streamer like myself, or someone who hasn't started yet, who's thinking about starting, something that's important to know about the platform?
I think people are so hung up on like figuring out how to be unique or new or fresh, or like how to perfect their thing. Honestly, the best thing you could do for yourself is just go live and kind of like throw yourself in the water and figure out how to swim along the way. Because you could spend so much time speculating what's going to work, what's not going to work, what's going to make your channel better than this person, that person, no matter how much time you spend on the research. The truth is, Twitch is one of those platforms that like you have to figure out how to grow while you're running on your feet, you know, like while you're out there running at full speed.
Yeah.
And it's kind of just one of those platforms because it's not a pre-recorded thing. you can't expect what people are going to say or what they're not going to say about you. So you have to be okay with that being part of how you're going to grow and how you're going to build something. And I think consistency is also the next thing to say something about, because a lot of people like they think like, oh yeah, I had this one great stream, like awesome. Well, you got to do it again. Like you have to get in that mindset where it's like you got to clock in, and even if you're not feeling it, like you got to figure out a way to get in the headspace, because this isn't just a one-off, and you can't just float on this. I mean, social media works. Unfortunately, it works such that you could just click on another channel and then, you know, maybe someone will forget to come back. So you have to act like you're a TV show, where when you say you're going to show up, you're going to show up, and people are going to tune in when you tell them to tune in.
You'll be there. Yeah, that definitely resonates. So you love cats just like I do. So tell me a little bit, Raquel, like in your words, like why are cats so special? Like what makes them special to you?
I think I have always loved cats. It's funny because I grew up with dogs, and in the Philippines where I was born and raised, cats, at least in my family, were looked at as like the pigeons or the subway rats of the world. Like they're abundant in the Philippines. They're dirty. They're seen as dirty, and dogs are not man's best friend over there. Like they all live outside. It's rare for a family to really have like a dog go to sleep with them. You know, I mean, I don't know what it's like now in the Philippines, because I obviously don't live there anymore. But when I was growing up, cats in particular were not celebrated like the way they are here in America.
Wow.
And I've always wanted one. I've always weirdly connected with cats. Every time I'd go to my friends' houses, they'd always find me and sleep on me or lay on me, and so I always felt like, I don't know, like I was a cat person from the beginning.
Yeah. Right.
And my mom has this funny story. She said when I was born, she took me home from the hospital, and there were about 20 cats on her roof, like Catwoman style, like 20 cats on her roof, like inexplicably like yowling. And I don't know if there was like a dead carcass over there, but I like to imagine that I'm like the reincarnated Catwoman or something.
Sure. I mean, that makes more sense for sure.
Yeah.
That's
so
funny. Wow.
Yeah, I don't know. I think something about their independence and their like weird personalities and how they're so different from one another. And if you have never been around cats, or you know, have never owned one or never grew up with them, I understand people's like, oh, aren't cats like, don't they hate people? It's like, I could see why you say that, but it's because they're not just going to wag their tail at you and like come at you by the door. Like you have to convince them to like you, and I just love that. It's like, it's not, you can't just give them a treat and they'll love you forever. Like it's work. So I don't know, they're like little people, I guess.
That has to be a question that I ask for all cat people that come on, because I asked that same question to another Twitch streamer. Do you know Mandy Prater?
Yeah.
Mandy, you know, so she was on a few weeks ago. I didn't premiere the episode yet, but I think I somehow must have seen on her stories or something that she also loved cats. And I just feel like as a fellow cat lover, like it's so I just love, it's like almost therapeutic. I just like love hearing like that description that you just gave and the one that she gave too, because it's so spot on. It's like, yes, that's exactly everything you just said, except for the when I was born and the Catwoman thing on the roof. Everything else,
you mean that doesn't happen to every cat person?
No, I don't think so. At least not that I know of. It's possible. We just didn't know. We just didn't know what was going on. But man, that's spot on. I absolutely. They're so interesting creatures. They're such interesting creatures. That's fascinating.
Agreed. They're like just enough removed where they're still like kind of wild animals, but if you like train them enough you love them enough, then it's like super rewarding, because like they're not gonna like you just for nothing. So I feel like when you put in the work, you see like the reciprocation, and I think for me at the end of the day, when my cats love me, I know they love me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a fact. All right, so you also love cooking. I saw some fish on your story yesterday or something, or recently. So
been on a fish kick.
That's awesome. So wait, have you been into cooking for like a long time, or is this more of a recent thing?
Oh yeah, I have always loved cooking.
Okay.
I was awful at it at the age of 8 when I really started.
Specifically? Okay.
Yeah,
right.
like I was super into baking. I loved baking cookies and like brownies and cakes. And then I wanted to learn how to bake from scratch. Like the word from scratch seems so like daunting back then. But now, like, I refuse to open a pre-made box. Like, I hate doing that.
Wow. Okay.
So I think, like, I love cooking because I started so early. It's always been something celebrated in my culture. A big part of the Philippines is our food. A big part of, like, how I grew up and how I bonded with my family's food. So it was just kind of something natural to get into. And then I really picked up cooking skills when I was, like, in my teens because I decided to be a vegetarian. And I was actually a pescatarian for, like, 7 years. And, in the Philippines, you eat a lot of pork and meats and like beef stews, and it's very, very heavy on the meat consumption. So it was kind of unreasonable for me to expect my mom to always cook me something special, and of course I wanted to like learn how to be self-sustaining and be more independent.
Yeah.
So I started cooking vegetarian foods, and funny enough, I got into cooking because right around the same age, like I went to the gym, and every time I was at the gym, I would turn on the Food Network. So everybody on the treadmill with me would be like suffering, and I'm over here like trying to learn recipes. So I'd go home and do those recipes.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then you go to college and nobody cooks, so like it was like my magic trick. It was like my specialty. And then it just developed from there, really. It's kind of a therapeutic thing for me. At the end of the day, like, if everything's hectic, at least I can create, like, it's another form of creation for me.
Wow.
Where, like, if I just didn't do anything productive, I can at least feel good about making this one meal.
That's awesome. Do you have, like, I don't know, like, if you had someone that you were cooking for and like you were going to make something that you're amazing at making, which is probably several things if you're that good a cook as you claim, which I believe. But do you have like a go-to like you are like, this is it right here, you're not going to mess this up kind of thing?
I go through phases. Right now I'm going through it's very like TikTok. Like a few months ago, TikTok started doing like the sticky rice with like the salmon and like the sriracha and the mayo.
That sounds good. Separate together? What kind of?
Yeah, well, they like mush it together. It's like sacrilege to me to like see that. So for me, I've always loved salmon. It's like one of my favorite dishes. I make this kind of like this Filipino hybrid recipe. It's like sort of Japanese. It's like Filipino Japanese TikTok fusion dish. So it's basically broiled salmon. It's like a tamarind cream sauce on top of the salmon, and brown rice, just plain brown rice, a little bit of like mixed greens underneath with some sort of like soy sauce dressing, like ginger soy sauce dressing. And you eat what is it called? Seaweed on the side. So you put everything on the seaweed and you eat it like it's like a taco or something.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Wait, so is that a dish that you made up, or is that one that is part of the Philippine culture, or because you mentioned a couple different places?
Yeah, so
Japan as well?
like the nori or the seaweed's the Japanese part. When you put like the sriracha is also Asian, not specifically Japanese. I think sriracha is Chinese, and then the tamarind flavor, that's Filipino. So that's like the Filipino fusion, and then the cream sauce on top, like that's not very. Like, I don't know what that is, but it's something that I kind of made up. Like, it's just like a fusion dish that I really enjoy. It's really quick. It's easy. It's impressive, too. It looks really good, but it takes me like 30 minutes.
So not that long a time, but the presentation is like, and obviously the taste is like on point.
Yeah, yeah. It impresses anybody near and far. And I love when I get people who are like, I don't really eat fish. And then they eat that and they're like, oh my God. Like, that's...
Yeah.
Super rewarding to me when I convert people.
Yeah, totally. So, all right. So what about like any shows that you've been to that are ones that 10, 20, 30 years from now, like these are ones that will stand out as like something you'll never forget? Do you have any like those types of experiences on a show, whether it was a Twitch stream or in person, that was just something about it, the energy there, the way the crowd received it, that type of thing?
Yeah. So I recently played a show at the Bitter End in New York, and yeah, I played that show, and it was just like, it was I think it was literally my best solo show. So I play with my full band, which is who I'm going to tour with. It's going to be full band. But I also play solo, which is a lot less hassle, and I literally just have to manage myself and figure out how I'm going to get to and fro. So anyway, the show was just so spectacular because like not only was everything set up perfectly, like there was a projector with like chat behind me. The house already had a projector or, you know, in-house projector or whatever. The sound was awesome. It was in my home city. That was really cool. It was a very notable venue. I loved how intimate it was. Like I could literally, like if I'm singing too hard, like my spit will literally land on the person who's sitting front row, which was like it just I love how Twitch feels really intimate, and that was like translated over to this show where it was like super intimate. And a lot like I packed the place out. It was I guess I never really expect that I could pull people because I'm like this internet person, but then when I see these people, they're living breathing fans that, you know, travel to come see you, and then they know all your words. It's like just mind-boggling. But that one was particularly crazy because I feel like there were a lot of people who I just, for whatever reason, like we were vibing and like people are yelling out inside jokes. Like I'm egging chat on, or I'm egging, you know, I'm egging the audience on, and and they're yelling stuff like Raquel. I don't know if I could curse here, but like Raquel Lily F's, like just like all these little inside jokes and like you know, call like Rachel, and like, you know, only the people that are like true fans know.
Man,
so
that must have been incredible. I mean, you're talking about like, you know, that these people exist because they're in the streams that show up there, but like seeing them in person and hear it, like that has to be a different level of like, in like you said, in awe. That's so cool.
Yeah, and it was the first show that I was really comfortable to flex my kind of stand-up comedy routine that I do on stream.
Yeah,
I feel like it's a lot harder to do in person because people expect to just watch you perform your songs, and I'm a little more serious when I'm, you know, performing, because it's all about just like talking about the song and the artistry and like the craft, the crafting of like the words or like the story. So I'm really hyper focused on like what I'm going to say in between the songs and how I'm going to make this relevant to the audience. But it's really cool when you could do it in a comedic way, where you could just like reel people in because they also know your comedic bone. And they're kind of like celebrating it with you, and it was just really cool to be able to like bring that out for the first time and feel really confident in that. And it was such a good show that they asked for a 2-song encore, which like I've had encores before, but like people were not like, I don't know, people were super juiced that day.
That's wild. So after the show ended, I imagine, I'm pretty sure I remember, I may have seen some pictures. I've seen some pictures of you with what I imagine to be people that were meeting you probably for the first time after being like in your Twitch streams and stuff. So like, what was that experience like interacting with these people like afterwards and stuff?
Yeah, it's crazy. So it's really cool that people feel so connected to you that they want to like sit there and hang out with you and like, you know, just soak up every moment, because, you know, you don't take into account, it's not kind of like a two-way conversation where like you're seeing them on the screen, like I'm seeing you, and then you're seeing me in return. It's like they're watching me for hours, and I don't really get a good sense of what that's like until I meet them. And it really sinks in when like, it's like, oh, who are you? And it's like, I'm so-and-so. Like, I've been watching your stream for 4 years. And to think about how many hours they spent in 4 years to like watch me develop and like do all these songs, and then it you know, it comes down to this like one moment where we're meeting. It's crazy. It feels like you're meeting like a long lost cousin, or like you're talking to someone that you've known, but like you've never put the face to the name. So it's really cool. Like it feels like it's like a familial experience for sure.
Yeah. Wow. That I'm just like putting myself in your shoes for a second, and that has to be just like a beautiful and like amazing thing. And like I'm sure there will be many more experiences like that with like the tours that you mentioned, where you named eloquently dates, location, coordinates, you know, specific location. That was good. Coordinates, everything.
31 degrees and north. And
yeah. Exactly. Man, that's so dope. All right. So what about like places that you've been in the world? Like name a place that you've been to before. It doesn't have to be your favorite vacation or favorite place that you've visited, but like a place that you loved being at.
Well, one time I went to Greece. I really loved Greece. It was like just
honeymoon.
You guys went
I
there
went there
for
for
your
my
honeymoon?
honeymoon.
Amazing.
Yeah,
What part?
so good. We went to Athens for like 5 days, and then we went to
Cool.
Santorini for like 10 days. And it was
Nice.
I can't imagine a nicer place ever going to. It was that
Yeah.
nice. I loved it.
Yeah, just aesthetically, Greece was insanely beautiful. I mean, you could literally step outside of any terrace and, like, here you go, like Instagram influencers' best friend. It was just beautiful. It was
Yeah.
the year before I started streaming, so honestly, like, it's funny thinking back. It's like it was one of those experiences where I just wasn't hyper focused on like trying to get the best shot or like making it look good for everybody else. Like I just literally took everything in, and it was
Yeah.
like a really life changing experience. I had a very different audience perspective, and I obviously wasn't as accessible or like popular, or I didn't have the numbers that I do. I didn't have the audience that I have now. So
Yeah.
it's cool because I think back to a time when like I wasn't always geared towards making content, and I think something about that's like super special.
That resonated with me for sure. Yeah, like it's a little bit freeing thinking about a time where you're able to just take in the experience without thinking about the fact that this experience needs to be shared with others to build the brand or whatever, which is
Absolutely.
what we're a part of, and it's perfectly fine. It's like that's a challenge potentially to like the space that we're in, but being able to reminisce, I guess, and like think about like those other experiences where things were, a simpler time in life, so to speak, I think is
Simpler time, yeah.
yeah. I'm still kind of there. I'm like working my way. Like I've been, Raquel, I've been spending the past couple of years like really I think sort of strategizing and, like you mentioned earlier, learning on the fly, experimenting, trying different things out, and figuring out, where my lane is. And I think that I mean I know that the live streaming aspect has to be like a major part of what it is that I do for several reasons. I think one of them is that I feel it took a while, of course, but like I feel now comfortable on the live stream. And this is actually a new thing. Whereas maybe 2 weeks ago, it's huge. I wouldn't have probably said that 2 weeks ago. Now I'm like, I'll hit the live button and I'm just like more like, I don't want to say I don't care, but I just like hit it and I just start talking to no one if no one's there right away. And I really don't care. Whereas before I did care. And it's very freeing, and seeing that was one piece of it. And then I think the other part that's extremely important for me is seeing people like yourself and many others who are just supremely talented and great at what they do, and knowing that there's so many other options out there. Even if there's one person in my stream as someone who's starting out, this one person or these two or three people, they're like choosing to spend time with me instead of anything else they could be doing, let alone not just going on Twitch, but like doing anything else. And so to me, that was the moment for me like a few weeks ago where I actually, I think, just said it on stream. Like I was just like real, not emotional, but like real direct and appreciative of those individuals who were chatting. And I think that resonated surely with them. Forget the point I was trying to make earlier, but that's a little bit of a little ramble there. But yeah, I just feel a lot more comfortable, and I'm just excited. Like I have everything over here set up in such a way where like I was spending time, Raquel, figuring out like the audio routing and like getting everything set up just right so that I can just focus on having fun and being musical and like doing those types of things that I love. And as of 2 days ago, it is now set up that way. And
Amazing.
So now I just feel like this year is going to be like a take off in not the way of like crazy growth, because I don't really care too much about that, honestly. It's like taking off in terms of just really truly genuinely having fun, and I know kind of what I bring to the table, so like I expect everything else, like in terms of the successes that I think all of us are at some level seeking and kind of looking for and working towards, like I have confidence that those things will kind of follow,
Yeah, and it's amazing that you hit that stride, and consider the fact that some people are doing this for years and like don't ever experience that comfortability that you found so early on. So like, pat yourself on the back. That's incredible.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. I literally, I don't think you meant literally, but I just did anyway. I guess.
No,
okay, right?
I love it even more that you did that literally.
Okay, perfect. I just had to make sure we're on the same page there. That is so dope. So another show for you, not another show, question for you is name a show that you love.
Okay, so Euphoria just came out. I've been watching that and following up with that.
Okay.
It's really, when people think Euphoria, they're like, oh, it's just a high school show with like a bunch of high school drama. But for me, that's not it. Like I have a degree in neurobiology, and a big part of what got me into neurobiology is addiction and how like addict brains and like how chemicals induce certain responses in the brain in general. And
okay.
I took this class called the neurobiological addiction to drugs, and it was like one of the most interesting classes. Like I feel like everybody needs to take that class because they dive into alcohol, they dive into marijuana, cocaine, like all the street drugs that are so popular with really in any space and culture. Yeah. And just learning how that breaks down in the body and how that affects the brain chemically was just like such a wild ride. I mean, I couldn't not listen. So to be able to take what I learned and like all like the kind of nerdy things that I love about neurobiology and have it in one show and like see how that plays out in like a social setting is really cool because it's deeper than just like a show for teenagers. It's actually a very adult show. Like lots of nudity, lots of violence, lots of blood, like they also talk about like the LGBT community a lot. Like there's a trans person, so I think like that's really important socially and how that affects like our perception of like what is normal is really cool. I think they're breaking a lot of not boundaries, but like a lot of, I don't know what word I'm trying to come up with. Barriers.
Yeah.
And and it's shot by A24, so it's like visually just so stunning. And their ideas from it, like the lighting, the space that they create, the artisticness of it all.
Yeah.
It's just so mind blowing. Every episode you're just like it's an art form.
I'm gonna have to watch it. I heard of it before, and just like what happens with many shows, it goes on the list and then I just forget about it until this moment. So that's why I love asking that question, because like for that to be the first show that you bring up, not asking the question of what is your favorite show of all time, which is such a basic podcast interview question. No, we're not asking that. Like just what is like the first show that comes to mind that you love, and that's one that you mentioned, which means that I have to check it out, and I will. And that sounds so interesting. I love the artistry of it. I love the fact that first of all, I didn't know. I mean, I guess I wouldn't have known, but the fact that you studied neurobiology is quite interesting, very interesting, and like it helps me understand a little bit, or not even understand. It's just like it's an added layer to you, right? People see you as funny and talented musically, and then there's cooking too, and there's like like education, like really a strong education background as well. And I think like all these things are extremely noteworthy. There's another compliment.
Thanks.
That one's a little bit more like low key. Like noteworthy is kind of like
it's noteworthy, like, young lady.
It's noteworthy. Exactly. It's like a little something there. It's still a positive though, but it's not as big as the earlier one. But it's okay. That's good.
I appreciate it.
No, my pleasure. My pleasure. I'm having a great time with the conversation. Are you streaming tonight?
Not tonight. I'm streaming tomorrow, which is Saturday.
Tomorrow. Okay. Do you have a live stream? You do have a live stream schedule.
I do.
Believe,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So do you ever, or how often, if ever, do you do random unscheduled streams?
All the time, because my schedule, like as much as I want to just be like consistent, I haven't been consistent for more than like 3 months at a time. And that's because I'm always like presented new opportunities where like I'm moving somewhere else, or like I'm going to this convention and it's going to screw up my whole month, or I'm like moving somewhere for a month. And that's something that I'm finding that I'm doing more and more. Like next month, I'm going to be in Miami for literally a whole month. So
that's so dope.
Yeah. And just having been in the pandemic has changed my perspective on like living situation. It's like I have home base, but if I can make the means to support myself so that I could go travel and like get cultured and learn different languages or learn different kinds of people or like be closer to some of my friends that I otherwise can't be just because of vicinity, I'm going to do it.
Yeah. You do an incredible job. Here's another compliment at bringing your audience with you by sharing the journey of like what it is that you have going on. And, obviously we have so many different ways to be able to do that, with stories and stuff like that and other, all different platforms. But I think there's something to that as a person who's like live streaming, the fact that you can start a live stream and then people who follow you on Twitch, but also, follow you on Instagram, for example, like they feel like they know what you experienced in the past few days. And then like that just, to me at least, probably makes like that experience of hearing you talk about it, building on those experiences or sharing more about them, like a little bit behind the curtain. I think that's so eloquent and noteworthy, the way that you do it, and I think that's dope. Yeah. Like I see it and I look at that as something that's like, all right, you're using that platform like the way that I believe to be like the correct way,
Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I'm honestly, like, I wouldn't be able to have this kind of lifestyle, I guess you could call it, if it wasn't for my Twitch audience. I mean, I always say, almost like a joking but semi serious way, that my Twitch audience is my record label, and they're my boss, and they're the one who dictates my paycheck and what I could do and where I can go. So it's, the least I could do is to bring them along on the journey with me. And it's almost like a virtual diary, really. It's like, did it really happen if you didn't take pictures of it or if you didn't stream
Literally.
from there?
That's right. Yeah. Raquel, I was wondering, my friend, do you have anything that you like to talk about that you have going on right now specifically to share with my audience?
Yeah, so I mentioned that I'm going on tour in March. Did the whole like coordinates thing for you guys.
Exactly. Yeah, I have them memorized just like you do.
Amazing. But I'm releasing a single on 2/11. So, which is the Friday right before Valentine's Day. I'm releasing a song called Adieu that I produced myself. I produced, it took me forever to finish that song. It's the very last song that I produced on my album. And then I'm releasing a music video on the 25th of February for Ghost, which was completely shot and edited by my brother in the Philippines. I wasn't even there.
Wow.
So I'm really excited to show that. And he's an indie filmmaker over there.
So how did you guys do that? You filmed it out here and sent him the files or something, or how did that work?
No. He hired he hired his friends who have been in his films before, and he came up with the concept. The visuals for it, basically like put it all together, and all I had to do was wire him some money.
Wow, that's awesome. All right, the 25th of February.
The 25th of February,
wow,
and then
very cool.
And then I'm streaming, and then I'm releasing my entire album on 3/11. So it's 2/11, 2/25, 3/11, and it's just going to be kind of like a back-to-back, really intense next few weeks for me.
Wow. So what's the name of your album coming out?
It's called Fixations.
Fixations. Is this your, I apologize for not knowing, but not really. It's no big deal. Is this your first album? How many albums have you had prior to this?
Well, I kind of have some unofficial acoustic albums that are available, like, on like my Bandcamp or like on my web store. You could buy a CD and I'll sign it and send it to you, but it's really not available elsewhere online, like any major, music platform. So this is literally my debut album. I've never had a fully produced album before, and I've never produced. I've never put something out that I've produced myself. Like I've only really done singles. And kind of getting better as a producer, but this is the first thing that I've ever made that's like, here it is in the flesh. Like here's a complete pile of work that I present to you as an album. So yeah, it's my first.
That's incredible. So, and we'll keep the conversation going for a little bit longer if that's okay with you, because I'm actually interested in the artistry behind this. This is actually great. I'm glad you brought this up. Good stuff, because I need to know a little bit about this. So, like when you talk about produce, do you make all the music that went on your album as well as the lyrics and everything? Or how does that work?
I write the songs front to back, and my whole creative process is I sit down by myself in my room or wherever I'm at with my guitar. I come up with the melodies and the lyrics. Usually it's melody and lyric come to me like very like spontaneously, and I build the song around that. Because I feel like if it gets stuck in my head and if I can remember it the next day, then it's a good melody. Like if I can remember it, then anyone can remember it.
Sure,
so I kind of build upon this like little tiny idea, and then I build a song around it. And once the song is completed, I present it to usually my keyboardist Martin, who is a theory aficionado, And him and I kind of workshop it if it needs to be workshopped, or if I need to change this chord up, or if he has any suggestions like, here's some color, here's some changes that you might consider. He's my go-to guy. So him and I are kind of the songwriting brain of the project. But I pretty much do most, if not all, of the songwriting, at least the melody and the chord work. And then I come in and make things more interesting with Martin. And then that's kind of when we present it to the rest of the band. And really, Martin and I do a lot of the pre-production. Like, we come up with like a groove concept or something that's a little bit more meat and bones than just like the song lyrics, the melody, and like the chord structure. So like, what's the groove like? What's the rhythm going to be like?
Yeah.
And we kind of write like a rough, I want to say estimate of like what we want it to be shaped like. And then I think that's the best time to show it to other members, like our drummer, who's super intuitive. Brian is, him and I, like, the way he understands like my desire for like a certain groove is like ethereal. Like, I literally, like, I'll be struggling with a piece and I'll be like, man, I don't know what kind of rhythm I want for this, but like, I want it to feel like this. And then like, I just move my body and he's like, oh, yeah, I got it. And he gets it in like 2 seconds. So that's just the way his brain works is wild. And then Jacob, he is also a theory aficionado. So he gets in there and he makes suggestions and all that. But mostly, like, Martin and I will write the parts out for everybody and then kind of workshop it with everybody else. But as far as like the instrumentation, the thing with me is I'm not going to be your best guitarist. I'm not going to be your best bassist. I'm not going to be your best keyboardist. But I do have a strong vision as to what the final product should sound like. So I think my forte is like the leadership that I kind of bring to the picture. Like, I mean, I'm down to send you something and be like, come up with whatever you want. I don't want to taint your vision. But usually it comes back to me and I'm like, that's not what I was looking for. So in order to not waste anyone's time, I kind of, because I don't really know theory as proficiently as some of these cats do, like I mouth parts out, or I'm like, listen to this reference song. This is the groove I want. And if I can't achieve it with other people, then I'll come in and like write something. But I just love collaborating with other artists and seeing kind of what they bring to the table. Now, Martin, my keyboardist, like, the things that he brings is like, I cannot replicate what his hands do.
Wow.
It's,
okay.
So he's a big part of my production. Him and I really speak in rhythmic grunts. It's like, yeah, no, like, it's very like, it's very primal. So yeah, like, sometimes like I'll be stuck and I'll be like, yeah, man, come over. We'll like smoke some weed and like we'll come up with stuff. And by the end of the night, like, we maxed out the tracks in Pro Tools, and all I have to do is sift through them. And like, another thing I'm really good at in production is I'm really good at like placing people where they need to be. So like, usually I get like parts that are like overplayed, or like I want people to give me more than less. So for me to like cut parts out and use them as samples is kind of another production technique.
How did the band meet? How did the band get together?
Martin is my first member. I met them because I was trying to, at the time I was really new in Birmingham, and I was really just trying to get my feet wet in the whole scene. And I wanted to take vocal lessons, who was, at the time, their jazz professor. His name's Steve Roberts. And I thought maybe he could teach me a thing or two about how to be a better singer. But he found that he couldn't really help me in that department. However, if I needed a band, he knows these people. So it was almost kind of like one of those like serendipitous events where you're trying to look for something, but it's not quite what you're looking for, and then it just clicks for whatever reason. But Martin was the guy that he's like, hey, if you want somebody to like help you with the keys, here's a guy. Jacob also, he's an insane bass player. If you ever need a bassist, here's a guy. So that was kind of the core of my band. And then I'm not even exaggerating when I say like 20 different drummers.
Oh, wow.
To this day, like, drummers are just so hard. Like,
in and out. Wow.
So
why do you think that is?
I think a lot of the drummers I've worked with were either like they just couldn't float, or, you know, they sank, or some people like moved away. Some people just are in too many projects. like for instance, like my drummer, he's like my drummer. Like this guy is like part of the band. He can't come on tour with me because he's going on tour with another band. So like he just has like 5 different projects because he's amazing.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay.
But
Do
yeah,
you have a person coming in? I'm assuming obviously you have someone else coming in for the tour, like a stand-in.
Do you know
Mark
Magnificent?
I don't.
He's a Twitch streamer and he plays drums on his stream, but it worked out such that he's like in LA. I don't have to fly another person out, and he agreed to do these dates with me. So I'm really excited that he's on board because now we literally have a Twitch band. Wow.
That's so. Wait, so the other people that you just mentioned, the bassist and the keyboardist, are also Twitch streamers?
Yeah.
Oh, how cool! So I'll have to, maybe I'll get the name. Well, I mean, I can obviously, I'll message you. I'll have you like message me the names of those people so I can check them out too, because that'll be dope. Because as you're talking about them, specifically the keyboardist whose name I don't remember, and it was
Martin Castor. His Twitch name is it's Mart_music.
Mart. Okay. As you're talking about this, I'm like, I need to know more about this person, because I'm a keyboardist, right? I love the piano, I love that stuff. So like hearing you talk about him, I'm like, okay, yes. And now that I know he's a Twitch streamer, like I have access to him. I didn't know if he was like something like exclusive, like I can't even like see this person, but he's on Twitch, so that's cool.
Yeah.
That's
he's
really
good
cool.
people. He streams his production, so you'll see him on Ableton just fooling around.
Okay. Man, what a world that we're in now, right? Where, I mean, this is getting like, not philosophical, just like the fact that like we can share these things that we're doing musically with people across the world is very noteworthy and very interesting and very cool.
Mm-hmm,
like that's
absolutely
dope. It is really cool, and it changed your life, to allow you to do just such incredible things, and onward and upwards, right? I think that's I caught you mid-drink, sorry. Onward and upwards.
Onward and upwards.
That's it. Well, I truly enjoyed myself. I'm going to probably get a bowl of cereal right now.
Amazing.
Because I just went to ShopRite today, and I got like some,
what kind of cereal,
like exciting. Yeah, I was going to say, not like ones that are probably going to be exciting to mention on stream. Like, it's not like, oh, I have some, like, some whatever, Fruity Pebbles or something that people liked as kids. I have like, let's see, what kind did I get? I don't even know the name. I bought Life today. I know we all know about Life. I bought Life. I saw it on sale for $1.99. And I didn't go with the regular. I went with the Cinnamon Life just because I wanted it to be a little bit.
Okay.
Okay.
That's kind of, cinnamon is exotic.
Yeah, a little bit. Thank you. But is it though? Or I don't know. I guess
maybe that's me being nice.
You're the culinary person here, so if you say it, then I'll accept that.
Yeah,
and then
we're gonna go with the word exotic.
Exotic. So cinnamon is exotic. That's gonna be the title of this episode. Raquel Lily, cinnamon is exotic. And I'm feeling
quote me on that.
Exactly. So that's actually a good idea, because that might, I mean, first of all, the people that are going to watch this are going to be people mostly that like know you and want to know more about you. But if we do that, then like they'll have to wait until like the very end of the episode to like fully understand it. So that's a little trick of the trade right there. We might have to do, Cinnamon is exotic. Okay, it's settled. I think I'll have to think about it a little bit more, but I think I'm going to do that. And then the other two cereals are not noteworthy to mention because I don't even remember the names of them. But I'm gonna probably have like a bowl of each tonight, like a little medley of sorts.
You're living the dream, man.
There we go. You approve. Raquel approved. Boom. That's it. Look, I appreciate you. I'm excited to see you more on stream and just see what you continue to do. And just keep being awesome, keep being yourself, all that, whatever, all those things that people say and stuff. And just you're just incredible, and I am gracious that you took some time out, and I do appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, have a good one.
Thank you, you too.
How you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing extraordinarily well. So first of all, something you don't know about me, probably, maybe, I don't know, is that my wife and I are expecting our first child in just a couple of short months. So
incredible.
Yes, I'm extremely excited about that. And then like on the front of like this content creation journey and music stream, I just recently got it started like with music streaming and stuff myself. And like I had several things that happened today. I'm sure you can relate to this. Like when things that you were hoping or wanting to happen for you, like emails and partnerships, those types of things. Like I've had several of those like happen today. And so I'm,
Nice.
and including this conversation that I was like really excited about. So like it's like a lot of great things happened today. We're getting snow tomorrow, which sucks, but like this kind of balances that out a little bit. So I'm feeling great right now. Feeling great.
Amazing.
That's spot on, man. So I'm gonna give you back the rest of your day. I can talk to you for a while longer, but I will share this with you, if possible. I mean, literally, I was talking to someone prior to this, and he's overseas, so he was at like ending the conversation at like 2 a.m. So he was like very tired and stuff, although he was like very alert during the conversation, but I knew that he was making time for me. And so I asked him a question that was we were just having a good dialogue. So I just asked him a very like weird question at the end. I said, so just do me a favor and just name one thing that you hated about this interview. And he was like taken aback, like what the hell do you mean by that kind of thing? But then he said one thing was that he said it might have been like a little bit too short for him. And I was trying to keep it short because I was trying to keep it like 45 to an hour. We could have like went longer. He's a classical piano guy, so we were really, really vibing. But I wanted to like respect his time a little bit. But that made me think, like first of all, now you and I have this conversation that like years from now, like you'll be able to see where you were like in this moment, which I think is incredible in itself. But down the road, if you are interested, I think it would be dope to like revisit with every single one of these 9 or 10 people that I highlighted at whether it's a year or like whenever it is, to like see where we're at now. And at that point, the relationship is already like this, like we know each other already kind of thing. And now it's just very much more a conversation. So I was just thinking about that idea, and I think that would be dope, like moving forward.
Yeah, I think that'd be awesome. Like if we can make this like a longer conversation where we're not getting the formalities out, like who you are, what you do. I think that'd be cool to build upon, what we have here.
Dope. I really genuinely appreciate the time and really just enjoyed the conversation a whole lot. Aside from the airlines, no, just kidding. I was
gonna say that was my least favorite part of the conversation was when I had to mute my mic and I had to talk to Delta to straighten out my tour plans.
Right. Well, you know what happened. So like when you were doing that, I'm like, this is no big deal. Like I can go on YouTube Studio, I can do all kind of stuff here. It's no biggie. And I didn't like know. I expected to hear you talking to them on the phone, like through the mic, but I had no idea that you muted yourself. So like for the first 3 minutes, I was like, what the hell is she doing over there? Like, she's not talking to anyone. I don't hear any sounds or anything going on over there. And then I like realized, okay, she must be muted, because I didn't want to like make awkward eye contact with you. Like I wanted to like not look up because I didn't want to like look at you. And like, so I was like, I looked up and then I saw your mouth moving. Exactly. Then I was like, okay, she's clearly muted right now, unless if she's playing an elaborate joke on me. Then that would be very funny,
Surprise, I wasted your time.
I love when people do that. So that actually would have been really nice. But yeah, thank you so much. I hope you have an awesome rest of your evening, and I'm going to definitely tomorrow's a snow day up here, so you'll see me in that Twitch stream tomorrow for sure, so I can get that shout out. Boom, let's go. And then that's it. And no, I'm looking for, I truly do enjoy that moment of being in someone's stream shortly after meeting them like this. So I definitely will see you tomorrow. And I hope you have a great rest of the night, and I look forward to just seeing your amazing journey, continue, and for you to continue doing the awesome things you're doing.
Thank you. And can I ask when this is going to get aired?
Yeah, of course. That's a great question. So I'm going to message you and find a time and date that work well for you and your audience, so that we can hopefully pack the house and have people like chatting. And like, that's like my vision for these types of conversations, that for people that have an online presence. It's been really fun, like being able for me to get to know them and for us to be able to chat on YouTube and stuff. So it can be really anytime after like 2 or 3 days from now. Cool. And then, but I'll message you and we can, hopefully figure out, not hopefully, but you can let me know. I'm good with timing and stuff. So we can definitely make that work.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.